the hadith of Jibreel, where this is where Imam An-Nawawi, in fact, he mentions this in his second hadith of his collection. He says that when Jibreel came in the form of an individual, and he came right in front and sat in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, essentially in the tashahhud position, right? And where he was sitting almost as we would be sitting in the prayer manner. And he sits right in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and just looking at him in his eyes. And that's a very peculiar manner to sit in, especially to seek knowledge. And again, this particular hadith was to teach the Muslims around them that when you are seeking knowledge, to always give your undivided attention. And this is something similar which the commentators say about Bayezid Bustami rahmatullah alayh, is that when he would sit in front of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, he would give his undivided attention to him. Undivided attention to him. He would be staring at him in his eyes in an undivided manner. And this is where we understand the spiritual elevations and spiritual stations of ahwal and maqam and mushahada. All of these things tie in this particular narration. And you find that Bayezid's sheikh, which was Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, he says that Bayezid, go and fetch some of my books from my quarters. I need to read something. And Bayezid just sits there in silence, and he doesn't respond. And Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq mentions a second time that, can you go get my books from my quarters? I need X, Y, and Z book. And Bayezid Bustami, again, he remains silent, doesn't say anything. And a third time he mentions it, one more time, he says, oh, why are you not going? I've asked you 3 times now. Go and fetch a few of my books. I need them. And this is when Bayezid Bustami rahmatullah alayhi mentions something very, very profound. He says that, oh Sheikh, that whenever I am in your presence, I am totally unaware of my surroundings. I may have sat with you in your quarters. I may have sat with you in other parts of the masjid and other places and in other gatherings and sittings. But because I am constantly focused upon you, I'm unaware of my surroundings. I don't know what cups are around me. I don't know what plates are around me. I don't know I don't know anything around me, let alone where your books are. And this is something which really struck with Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq. And he says that this man and this individual, I see signs of spiritual elevation in this particular man. Rather than becoming a murid, I can see him in the future becoming a murad of somebody else. And that's something very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. And this is something which a sheikh can really, really see in another individual, when he spiritually trains them up to such a degree where he sees his students beginning to flourish. And that's one of the main goals of a sheikh, right? And of a spiritual sheikh, is to give you that tarbiyah, to give you that upbringing to such a degree where you can now become a torchbearer and shed that light elsewhere. And that's exactly what these particular murideen of of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq became. And Bayezid Bustami was a prolific example of that. And you find that when you look at the Grand Sheikh Muhammad Aslam as well, which we also know as Qibla Alam, you find that it was the common practice. He would say that you look at me and I will look at you. And when you marry this story with Bayezid Bustami and Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, it's so beautiful that you say that how the Grand Sheikh would say, look at me and I will look at you. Stare into my eyes and let's move together. Let's evolve together. And this is how the Sheikh would do the exact same thing with his Sheikh, Sheikh Nawabuddin, and how this was a line and heritage going far back and beyond in this chain of narrations. You will find that Khwaja Baqi Billah will do the same. You'll find the same thing with Shah Bahauddin Naqshband, all doing a similar practice, because they knew that when you look with the eye of intent, when you look through the eye of nur and light. You can penetrate a person's heart with that. You can penetrate a person's heart with that. And this is why suhbah is so profound when it comes to our spiritual elevation. Being in the right company, having that nazar, as they say. And this is what the companions of the Prophet ﷺ carried out as well. That the Prophet ﷺ wasn't just a walking, talking Quran where he would just give instructions on a daily basis, but rather he was that role model which the companions would just simply gaze at as well.